Code apps just killed Canvas apps. We've been talking a lot about code apps lately on this channel. Charles, what are code apps?
So, code apps are a type of Power App. So they're like a Canvas app or a model-driven app. It's that kind of thing, but they're code first. So it means that you can write the code in JavaScript and then deploy it to Power Apps, to the Power Platform runtime, and then run it just like it's a Canvas app or a model-driven app. And what's so cool about them is that you get to write it in JavaScript. So you don't have those same limitations that you'd have with a Canvas app, for example. But you still get to use things like Dataverse and all of those 1,500 plus Power Platform connectors. And you get authentication built in. It adheres to data policies, managed environments. You can track everything. You can govern everything. It's all built in, but it's your code and you can put that in a repository. And because it's JavaScript code, AI knows all about that and can help you out with it.
So that sounds quite scary for me as a citizen developer or someone who doesn't touch codes. I quite fancy staying in the Canvas app world. But let's kind of wind that back a little bit before we come into the arguments and why code apps are actually for you. And one thing we'd like to note is that we both come from Canvas app development world, don't we? We both have experience and have done numerous projects at multiple different scales for different companies with Canvas apps, with Power Platform solutions involving Canvas apps. So we understand that there's a lot there that, we respect about Canvas apps. We appreciate the journey they've been on and why they were what they are and what they do. They were brilliant, being able to open up this new, base for people who don't program, who don't code, to be able to drag and drop things on a screen and, build using PowerFX formats. And there's greatness as well in the Canvas app world in that you could extend them with things like plugins, PCF components, but you were going into the pro code realm at that point. You still have to know JavaScript, which is, an interesting point given that code apps are JavaScript. Let's talk about it in a little bit more detail, will we?
Just to add to what you just said, Josh, I absolutely loved Canvas apps when they came out. So although it feels like we're knocking them, we both did really enjoy building Canvas apps and loved it. And I look back on those times with fond memories. But yeah, everything has changed and we need to get with the times. We need to provide value. So what's the difference between the two? So with Canvas apps, you're usually building them in a studio. So make.powerapps.com. And you can't really access the source code as such. You can kind of get to it with YAML, but it's not really the same thing. You can't really build from it properly. Whereas with a code app, you can write in code, so you can do anything you want with that code and then publish it to Power Apps, and there you go. With Canvas apps, when you try and use AI with it, you're trying to generate Power Effects, for example, what we've noticed is that it very often hallucinates. So it will create functions that don't actually exist. Also with Power Effects, when you're looking at delegation issues and things like that, it then becomes very slow. You're really struggling to have performance within that. You've also got this abstraction layer over the top. So a Canvas app is a React app, a code app is a React app, but a Canvas app is working with this abstraction layer where it's running all of this JavaScript code to try and calculate based off of your controls, your containers, your formulas, and your data sources. And all of that stuff gets bundled up together, and that creates this performance hit to it. So it's much slower. A code app doesn't have that abstraction layer, it's much faster. So then there's also the aspect of the actual developer workflow. So you're in your studio, you're clicking, you're dragging, you're typing PowerFX. It's not too slow, but when you compare it to a developer workflow in a code app where you're chatting with a coding agent, that's incredibly fast. Not only that, but it's incredibly powerful because you are working with the source code. You can easily commit it to Git, so you can put it into GitHub or Azure DevOps. You can get packages from Node Package Manager. So say you want to do some charts. How easy is it to do charts in Canvas apps? Well, it's very difficult. Charts that are accessible, basically impossible. In code apps, you can bring in a charting software that's already been built and matured for accessibility and user experience and user design, and it's there instantly for you. And then the point on the front of, or the point in favor of Canvas apps is that they have built in offline capability through Dataverse, and they have a mobile app. So you can install the mobile app on your mobile phone, you can run it, and then you can choose your Canvas app. At the moment, you can't do that with code apps. So that is something in favor of Canvas apps. However, that's coming to code apps. It's on the roadmap.
Yeah. So all I'm hearing here is Canvas apps. That is the dead end of, just if you're picking up Power Platform and app development in the Power Platform in 2026, code apps all the way. They are the future of the platform, not Canvas apps. Yeah. So there's a real kind of pros and cons list of what to use and when to use it. And, the argument is in favor of code apps, but maybe you're still on the fence with this and you're needing some reasons. So here we are with some reasons. And the first one is real dev tools. Any serious developer is going to be using proper dev tooling. And even if you're not a developer, you're maybe a citizen developer, or, you're not a coder, these tools are still practical for you and you can still use them. They take a bit of getting used to, sure, but they are, for all intents and purposes, quite simple to pick up. TypeScript, JavaScript frameworks like React, Git-based workflows, continuous integration, continuous deployment and development. They're all things that you'll need to get involved in at some point anyway, even in Canvas app land. There's so much there that maybe we don't consider when we're building Canvas apps, but you'll hit a point eventually where you will need to understand this stuff. So why not use that as a learning opportunity and pick it up now? It's the best time to do it. And with the, AI kind of integration, AI coding, vibe coding kind of phenomena that's kind of taken off and exploded, software development has been democratized in 2026. There's no need for being scared of it. You've got AI at your fingertips. Go ahead, use it, experiment, learn, fail. That's how you're going to get the real kind of workflow here. And you might just build something great out of that. No more fighting with YAML code or, YAML formulas, PowerFX formulas that give you delegation issues that you're fighting with. Look on the forums and you'll see a million different topics around delegation issues. These are just not an issue in code apps. So, if that's one big reason to make the switch, well, there it is. Yeah, it's delegation warnings. We've all had them. Let's not worry about them anymore. Switch to code apps. What's the next reason, Chuck?
Well, and so many times that when we were working together, Josh, in our previous jobs, we would have instances where we would chat with each other and would say, oh, I wish Canvas apps had this. I wish it had better testing. I wish that we could do drag and drop. I wish that it wasn't so difficult to work around the user interface and build responsive design. We had so many of these wishes, and all of these wishes have come true just through code apps. It's as simple as that.
Our prayers have been answered.
Absolutely. So, speaking of the user interface and customization and performance and things like that, you don't have those canvas walls, as we're calling them. So, hitting a brick wall where you can't get beyond something. You don't have that with code apps. So, with a Canvas app, when you're building the user interface, maybe you want to have some special hover effects or some animations. And like 99% of the time, those things that I want, they're not available in a Canvas app. You can't use CSS. You can't use cascading style sheets with it. Performance-wise, you click and open a blank Canvas app, and it takes a long time to load. And then you start connecting it to your data sources, and it gets slower and slower. It's very difficult to have a really performant Canvas app. That's part of the reason why I had been previously doing loads of talks on Canvas app performance, because it's such a big thing. With a code app, you have pretty much complete control over that. Okay, you don't have control over your data sources, but you have control over how you communicate with them. And because it's JavaScript that's running, it's extremely quick. So yeah, you don't hit these same limitations. You don't have to build PCF controls anymore. You have JavaScript as your entire application.
So that wasn't enough to sell the code app concept. Then this one definitely will be, I think. And that is the fact that this is still within Power Platform. You're not going to expose any kind of more risk by developing this way compared to a Canvas app. your connectors, managed environments, everything that you know and love about Power Platform. All of those things that make Power Platform the answer to enterprise based, workflow automation. It's all still here and you can still use it. We're just building within that platform. The guardrails are there. So it's safe, it's secure, it's scalable. It's a no-brainer in my mind to go down this route.
Yeah. I mean, there's all of the governance, isn't there, of the platform. So it's not just that this is a great thing for the people who are building the apps, but it's a great thing for the people who are administering or working on the Power Platform Center of Enablement within their organization. You can have all of those good things that you have with Canvas apps and model-driven apps with code apps. You can have that protection, that security, built-in authentication, all of the connectors. It's a no-brainer, right?
Absolutely.
So what do Microsoft actually think about all of this? Like, we're telling you that code apps are amazing, but are Microsoft also thinking that code apps is the way forward? I mean, they've built them, which is a good signal, but is that everything? Well, there's some other signals to bear in mind. So one is that code apps was announced maybe close to a year ago, I think it was, and now it's generally available. There's been a ton of development on it and it's ready and it's still under heavy development to address any limitations that exist, like we talked about mobile capabilities, that kind of thing. Two very important people in Power Platform, or the most important people in Power Platform potentially. So Charles Vermana, he's the president of Business and Industry Copilot in Microsoft, and he said low code as we know it is dead. Well, low code is Canvas apps. Code apps are not low code. And then Ryan Cunningham, who's the vice president of Power Apps, he said that code apps are the future of app development. So doesn't that just tell you everything? But in addition to that, so Microsoft are obviously going the way of vibe coding. They want you to be able to talk in natural language to build whatever it is you need to build, which is why we have things like Plan Designer. So with that, they introduced vibe.powerapps.com, which is a way of talking in natural language to generate an app. Now, this app that they're generating is a code app. So again, it's showing you that the direction of travel is all about code apps. It's all about pro code. Low code, as we know it, is dead. Pro code is on its way in, but it's not something to fear because we have AI tooling, AI coding agents to help us with that. And that's why Josh and I did all of our video series on how to build code apps. And that's why we're continuing to put out this kind of content so that you can understand that this is nothing to be scared of. This is something you can embrace. Let us help you on that journey and build up your knowledge.
Yeah, and we've done this. We've been through this. If you watch our previous videos, you will see that we have shown you that this is within reach. You can literally watch back our series and you'll be at a level that you'll be comfortable with creating a code app. We've got a timesheet as part of that series. We walk through things like connecting your app to Dataverse, accessibility, building the app in React, using Entra, for looking up users, all of this stuff that might seem impossible. We've done it. We've shown it. We've proven it. We are teaching more and more people week to week how these code apps can be more productive and enhance your workflow. And to give it the real kind of magic touch, we've also included the AI assisted development approach as well, so that you can do this really quickly. The speed at which you'll get an app up and running compared to a Canvas app is astonishing. We've proven that, and we will continue to prove that until everyone in our minds is using code apps.
And so with this video series that we did, we obviously produced a code app by the end of it. And if you actually look at the code app, it's really fast. The interface we didn't even have to think about. Now, in an ideal world, we'd figure out what we want the interface to look like and we'd talk about it. But that interface was created so quickly and it was mobile friendly. And we got everything into source control. So if we ever needed to have an audit trail or revert back to a particular version, so easy to do. And this app is just, it's speedy and it works nicely, and it was so quickly deployed as well, which is another thing to bear in mind. It's not like it's slower because you're working in code. No, you can get that up into powerapps.com very quickly. But there are some counter arguments, right? So, Josh, Canvas is for citizen developers. Code apps is not?
Yeah, I think we've proven that necessarily isn't the case. There's a fair counter argument if you're not up to speed with code apps and how you can adopt them in your workflow. You might think Canvas apps is a simpler, more easier experience for a citizen developer to get on board with, but maybe not so much. I would say if you're building a very, very simple app, they've still got a place. Maybe something for personal productivity, learning, that kind of thing. And with Vibe apps, still in preview, but coming up through the ranks, that's still going to be something that maybe pushes citizen developers into the code app world. So yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think code apps is accessible for a citizen developer. Anyone who is interested and is able to read documents and documentation, a code app is just as accessible and easy to build as a Canvas app. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, when we're building a code app, we're just chatting with a coding agent. And people are now beginning to get more and more used to just chatting with agents, whether it's just using Copilot in Microsoft 365 or ChatGPT personally. You just get used to talking to them. And this is no different from that. You're just chatting with it saying, I want to build this. Can you help me? And if there's a problem, I have this problem. This is what's going wrong. Can you fix it? It's not rocket science.
But wait a minute, we've got years of Canvas investment, so we can't make the switch. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, so there are going to be thousands of apps potentially in your organization that have already been built. What do you do about that? Well, yeah, like we say here, it doesn't disappear overnight. So it's about picking your battles. It's about deciding where there's going to be the most value. Maybe you have an app that's used by thousands of people and it's a Canvas app and it takes 5 seconds to load. 5 seconds to load? If that's a code app, that's taking ideally less than a second. So maybe that's a good candidate. And what else can you do with it as you migrate it? Because you can probably make improvements other than just the performance. So yeah, that's something to bear in mind is that, okay, we'll have these ones that we'll just leave alone because it's not going to bring the value to migrate them to code apps, but there will be ones where it does bring you value. Or it might just be that you decide, okay, everything that's existing, let's leave it for now. With our new projects that we're going to undertake, let's do those as code apps and see how it goes. We can do pilots, we can do proof of concepts. It doesn't really matter. It's about how you feel about the risk. But there is another side to Canvas investment. Canvas apps have been worked on by Microsoft since, I don't know, 2018, something like that. So it's a long time. They've been around for a very long time. So by this point, they should be really stable, right? Josh?
No, of course they're not. And that's the annoying thing about Canvas apps, isn't it? Things like the modding controls. There's been evolution and iteration on them, but they haven't reached a point of what I would consider maturity where they are rock solid and stable. We're still encountering bugs and issues this far down the road, and it gets very tiring. It's not something that people enjoy. That experience isn't overly positive all the time as a result. So yeah, just because it's got more maturity in terms of it's been around longer doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. Already seen code apps blow away Canvas apps at most everything that you throw at it. So why wouldn't you make the switch?
Oh, well, one reason, Josh. So I just don't have the money to do it. So all of my developers, they're working on Canvas apps with SharePoint lists. We don't want to pay for Power Apps Premium. So yeah, you said Code Apps needs premium licensing, right? I'm sorry, but we can't afford that.
So are you saying that they are stuck in standards?
Yeah, they're stuck in standard.
And that's a really good argument, isn't it? Is the licensing. And let's be real, it's 2026. Microsoft are pushing licenses. If it's not a Power Apps premium license, it's a Copilot license, it's an E5 M365 license. You are paying for licenses somewhere. I would argue that, if you're not seeing what benefits a premium license brings in 2026, then is Power Platform really the answer for what you're looking for? The the actual benefits that you get from that premium license is insane. You're not paying for everyone to access an app. You're paying for a platform. You're paying for governance. You're paying for security. You're paying for authentication. Data security. There's just so much in that licensing wrapper to consider that if you're just looking at the bottom line, then these aren't these aren't for you. Stick to Canvas apps, but you'll be back in this position down the road when you realize that, wait a minute, we should have went with the premium licensing because we've now hit a limitation that we can't work around. It inevitably happens to every organization I've ever worked with. And then you end up having to go and unpick it all once they then realize that they need to pay for the licensing costs.
And we've been involved in these projects where apps have outgrown their SharePoint lists and we've had to convert them, and it's not easy to do and it's very time consuming. And if it's time consuming, that's costing you money. So we're not going to go fully into this whole stuck in standard thing right now. You'll have to come and watch our talk on it where we're going to really get into it. I'm so excited about that. For now, I'll just say that if you do continue to build Canvas apps with SharePoint lists, you are building tech debt and you're building apps that will waste time and they will cost you money. So think about it. The other thing I suppose that we should bear in mind is that we're talking about Power Platform here. If you're trying to avoid premium costs in Power Platform, maybe don't use Power Platform. There are other options. You can host apps outside of Power Platform for less cost. But then bear in mind the negatives of that, of not having those guardrails. There's a lot to it and there's a lot to weigh up. And with those situations, honestly, just get a consultant on board or get some expert to talk to and try and figure out like, which is the best path for us, weighing up everything, because there's a lot to weigh up.
Yeah, there's so much. And most of the time we found that, the premium license far and above outweighs all of the additional considerations you would have to make going with a pure web app without the Power Platform. Those governance, guardrails, security, authentication comes at a cost. The consultant cost primarily being the biggest one. You need someone who knows all of this stuff, but also the actual cost to implement it and build for it and constantly keep it updated as well. Power Platform is there for you from day one. So there's a non-argument in my opinion. So what should you do next, Charles?
So the very first thing you should do if you're building Canvas apps today is stop. Don't do it. No, in all seriousness, if you can stop with building Canvas apps to production today, it does make a lot of sense because you're accumulating technical debt. At some point, you're going to have to move that away from Canvas apps. If you can start building code apps from today, that's a great thing to do. If you can't do that yet, start building towards being able to do that. Get your developers to learn about code apps, start to upskill people, and just prepare your organization for that next step. Number 2, watch episode 1 of our Code App series. So we showed the timesheets app from a previous page. And if you start watching that series, that will help you to understand what Code Apps is about and that it's not such a scary thing. And people who have built Canvas apps can just make the jump over to Code Apps.
Number 3, start using AI. It's everywhere right now. It is the biggest factor in making software development democratized. If you haven't looked into it, make a start. It's not as scary as you think. It's not something to shy away from. It is the future and it's something you should look into. I had never worked with AI before and then I decided to pick it up and it is part of my daily workflow now. Everything I do has some element of AI in it. It's so powerful. You're holding yourself back if you're not picking up AI. It's very, very important. Not even just for code apps, but for anything that you're doing. It's very, very important that you start learning it. And our last one, subscribe. We are here. We are talking about code apps. We're talking about AI. We're talking about Power Platform.
Yeah, we've got so many videos planned, so many different topics that we're going to cover. Whether you're wanting to work with integrations in your code app, you're wanting to understand like what is actually going on behind the scenes with a code app. There's so much more that we're about to cover. I can't wait to get to those. So, are you still team Canvas or have you made the switch to code apps? We would love to know if you tell us in the comments. We want to know how many people are, say, stuck with Canvas apps, how many people have already switched to code apps, how are they finding it? Yeah, we want to know more.
Yeah. Tell us in the comments below. Remember to like if you like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned for the next one.
Thank you for being here.